Every day, people suffer from chronic disease, and to help combat such problems, a group of health leaders met recently to discuss the methods of reducing chronic disease. Today, we'll learn about the Florida Chronic Disease Prevention Coalition on Volusia magazine. Hi, I'm Amber Patterson. Not only that, but on this week's edition, we'll have some new information about the trail system right here in Volusia County. And then we'll take a look at Volusia County's Reef system. And finally, Community Information Director Dave Byron is joined in the studio by his guest, Supervisor of Elections, Ann McFall. Those stories, news, and more coming right up on Volusia Magazine. Stay tuned. Recently, Daytona International Speedway held a topping out ceremony.
Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Daytona Rising, Daytona International Speedway's massive upgrade, has reached a major milestone. Leaders with International Speedway Corporation, the construction company Barton Malow, community representatives, and hundreds of construction workers recently celebrated the halfway point of construction with a topping out ceremony. The crowd cheered and used their special speedway whistles as crews installed the highest piece of steel in the $400 million Daytona Rising project. Guests were invited to sign the beam, which also included a special plaque signed by the France family, the founders of the speedway, and NASCAR, stock car racing sanctioning body. Joey Chitwood, the speedway's president, said the event was a chance to celebrate how far the project has come.
So for us, in racing, there are 200 laps in the Daytona 500. Lap 100 is the halfway point. So today we're at lap 100. And at that point, you're starting to get ready for the finish line, making sure you're ready for that final stretch run. And that's what we're doing right now. We're getting ready for that final stretch run. It's still a year and 3 months away, but we can see that victory lane, we can see that checkered flag. And I'm going to tell you what, we're going to make it, and our fans are going to be the ones who enjoy it the most.
The construction project represents the largest infrastructure investment in the International Speedway Corporation's history. Volusia County Manager Jim Deneen said the project is substantial for the community.
Unbelievable. The council, I think, is so excited for the community about this development here, because this is a heck of an investment. You know, this is like an all-in, $400 million to make this the world's premier motorsports facility. Now, that being said, you have all the interest, all the dollars going to be involved in it, all the jobs, and they go right across the street to the other project we're involved in, which is Daytona 1, which is another $400 million of specialty shops and entertainment to make this area the real magnet and really take advantage of the magnet it is.
Since the project broke ground in July of 2013, workers have installed more than 31,000 pounds of steel, more than 474,000 bolts, and installed 83 sets of stairs. Daytona Rising is set for completion in January of 2016. Ocean water fishing is an important element of Volusia County's economy, whether it be commercial fishing or pleasure fishing. As such, the Volusia County Council has made a big commitment to the creation of more artificial fishing reefs to boost the fishing and diving opportunities off the Volusia County coast. Recreational and commercial deep-sea fishing is an important element of Volusia County's marine and boating industry. The Volusia County Council has committed to the construction of marine habitat and artificial fishing reefs off of the Volusia County coast for fishing and diving opportunities. Recently, the county's coastal division completed its final reef deployment for the 2014 reef construction season. Building upon 30-plus years of past success, in 2010, the County Council pledged to double the number of reefs. In 2015, reefs will be constructed at 2 nearshore reef sites. Volusia County Coastal Director Joe Nolan said this supports the regional marine industry by providing easily accessible deep-sea fishing and diving opportunities.
Our plans for 2015 are very unique and unusual, and we will be building the first near-shore artificial reefs in northeast Florida, north of Cape Canaveral in Florida. And this is a major leadership move by the County Council, because we're building two reef construction sites within a mile of the beach. One in Daytona Beach Shores, out within a mile off the Sunglow Pier, and then another location off Flagler Avenue in New Smyrna Beach.
The county created its first artificial reef in 1980 when it dropped a World War II cargo ship into 85 feet of water about 11 miles northeast of Ponce de Leon Inlet. Since then, the county has deployed steel ships, barges, and concrete structures into the Atlantic to form 128 reefs. Funding for the artificial reefs comes from Volusia County's Port Authority budget. For more information about Volusia County's artificial reefs, you can go on to volusia.org/coastal. This site includes a complete listing with reefs, location, and the history of materials deployed. We've got some exciting information about the trail system here in Volusia County. To date, the county has completed several segments of the expanding trail system. Volusia County's trail system has more than 23 miles of showcase trails and continues to grow. During the last year, there's been a rapid growth of the county's spring-to-spring trail and rail trail. The trails are being designed to accommodate walkers, joggers, inline skaters, bicyclists, and people with disabilities. The Spring-to-Spring Trail meanders through West Volusia and offers splendid views of natural Florida. To date, the county has completed several segments of the Spring-to-Spring Trail, totaling more than 15 miles. Earlier this year, the county completed a crucial piece of the trail that runs under I-4 into Berry. County Parks, Recreation, and Culture Director Tim Bailey said the county is closing in on a continuous trail on the west side of the county.
The East Central Regional Rail Trail is 52 miles, long. The importance there is that it's a significant piece of the coast-to-coast connector. So there is a significant movement and dollars set aside for the development and completion of that whole coast-to-coast connector. Once complete, it'll be the largest regional trail in the United States of America.
The 52-mile rail trail is being constructed along the longest abandoned rail line ever purchased in Florida. The state purchased the corridor from the Florida East Coast Railway in 2007 and turned it over to Volusia and Brevard counties for development and maintenance. When complete, the rail trail will stretch from Daytona to Edgewater with a 10-mile leg through Brevard County to Titusville. This year, County Council members broke ground on two pedestrian bridges that cross State Road 442 in Edgewater to State Road 415 in Osteen. For more information, you can go to volusia.org/trails. Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University is now home to the largest research telescope in Florida. Reporter Kendra Haley has the insider's look in this week's Volusia Here and Now.
Walking into the Arts and Sciences building at Embry-Riddle, you may think that these pillars are some type of architectural design, but they're actually holding up the telescope on the 5th floor.
It's a Ritchie-Cretan telescope. It has a 1-meter diameter primary mirror, which defines how much light the telescope can bring in.
Damon Burke, the university's observatory engineer, says that it's one of the most powerful telescopes in the country.
We think that there's no telescope to actually compete with it closer than Ohio. In the southeast United States, this is a world-class telescope that nothing can compete with, and we expect to get some beautiful pictures from it.
The installation of the telescope was no easy task, requiring heavy machinery and special structural supports.
The telescope is sitting on a steel truss, roughly 130,000 pounds, that is completely isolated from the rest of the building. The telescope weighs about 2 tons, and split up to 4 or 5 pieces, it's still too heavy to, I didn't want to hold it. We used a crane to bring the individual pieces up through the dome slit and assembled it in place. The entire telescope sits on a truss which is completely isolated to the building. All 5 floors have at least a 1-inch gap all the way down to the basement, which isolates building vibrations from the telescope. That way we have a nice stable platform for doing observation.
The extraordinary views into outer space aren't just for students and staff. Embry-Riddle offers monthly open house sessions for the public to look through a variety of telescopes. as well as images generated in real time from the Ritchie-Cretan telescope.
Guests that are able to climb the spiral staircase up to the observing floor should have no problem observing up here. We have various step stools and chairs and small ladders that will allow guests of any height to look through our telescope. The most useful thing for the public is that it has a lot of light gathering power. So a lot of things that maybe the public has only seen in computer images or something from NASA, they can actually see with their own eye through the telescope. We have two large observatory class eyepieces that are larger than what we'd find on a typical home telescope or in a smaller observatory. And because of the larger size of our optics, we can get a larger field of view and gather more light into the eyepiece. It's a really spectacular view through the eyepiece.
So, why the need for this technology? Burke says the Research Quality Telescope is part of the university's plan to strengthen science and engineering programs around its core mission of aeronautics and aviation. The university hopes to attract more students to its new bachelor's degree program in astronomy and astrophysics.
We can take some very brilliant pictures. We can do some interesting science, both for looking for exoplanets and nearby stars, and just taking interesting pictures and scientific data from distant galaxies, nebula, things like that.
From asteroids and comets in the solar system to the Great Red Spot of Jupiter, Embry-Riddle's new $1 million telescope is sure to impress. If you're ready to reach for the stars, log on to the site you see on the screen to find out more, and the next time this month you can try the telescope for yourself. For Volusia Here and Now, I'm Kendra Haley.
The Florida Chronic Disease Prevention Coalition recently met in Orlando to discuss ways to reduce chronic health problems. Health reporter Stephanie Strong has details in this segment of Community Health Matters.
Chronic diseases including heart disease, stroke, cancer, diabetes, and arthritis are among the most common, costly, and preventable of all health problems in the United States. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, modifiable health risk behaviors are responsible for much of the illness, suffering, and early death related to chronic diseases. At the Florida Chronic Disease Prevention Coalition Summit in Orlando, experts came together to address the issues.
This is a gathering of folks from all over the state, public sector, private sector, not-for-profit, and individuals who all have a passion about trying to impact our state in terms of chronic illnesses, chronic disease. We want to prevent chronic illness, and especially in our younger generation.
The theme for the summit was a healthy weight for all, and there is a reason for concern. 1 out of 3 kids in Florida are overweight or obese, and 65% of adults in Florida are at an unhealthy weight. Healthiest Weight Florida is a public-private collaboration bringing together state agencies, not-for-profit organizations, businesses, and entire communities to help Florida's children and adults make consistent, informed choices about healthy eating and active living.
A third of our children are overweight or obese, and with that overweight and obese, there are comorbid conditions, other health conditions that come along, whether it's being on the road towards developing type 2 diabetes or high blood pressure, heart disease. And as a clinician, I see the children in my practice who, because of their weight, they're developing health consequences, and we want to grow a healthier generation that are free from disabling conditions.
Working together is the way to make a difference.
Our families can help promote fruits and vegetables, limit screen time to less than 2 hours a day, encourage physical activity, an hour, a moderate to vigorous activity each day.
Summit discussion topics range from pediatric obesity, healthcare costs of obesity and health disparities, to physical activity for individuals with disabilities, and breakout sessions on the built environment, gold medal school districts, and childhood obesity. For more information, please visit the following websites: healthiestweightflorida.com, rockfl.org, and preventchronicdiseasefl.org. For Volusia Magazine, I'm Stephanie Strong, Public Information Officer for the Florida Department of Health in Volusia County.
As always, if you have any questions about this or any other health-related issues, you can log on to volusiahealth.com. Time now to head into the studio to join our very own Community Information Director, Dave Byron, with his guest, Supervisor of Elections, Ann McFall.
Well, thanks, Amber, and hi, everyone. This, of course, is a major election year with the general election November 4th. The Volusia County Department of Elections is well underway with its election preparations, and as usual, there are lots of things voters should know. So with that in mind, we have with us in the studio today our Volusia County Supervisor of Elections, Ann McFall. Ann, how you doing?
Doing good, working hard.
I was going to say, you getting any sleep these
No.
days? Not much, huh? Hey, let's talk about you know, the upcoming November elections. What sort of things does your staff have to do to get ready for a major election like this?
Well, it's amazing. We figured out it takes about 190 days before an election to get ready for the election.
Wow.
So we already had August, but all during the summer we were planning for this general election because it's the bigger one this year.
Yeah, I was going to say, obviously there's a lot of interest in the November ballot. We've got two very high-profile candidates for governor. You got the medical marijuana issue and so forth. So, going to be a busy time. Any predictions on what you think the voter turnout will be?
Historically in Volusia County, the midterm elections, the year of the governor, is rarely over 50%.
Right.
So, but the wild card is we now have most all cities on the ballot. So there's quite a few highly contested mayor's races that we're looking at. The medical marijuana is a wild card.
Right.
Absentee ballots, the ordering is historically high.
Right.
So I can't even venture to guess who's going to win or lose.
What's going on with all of the, I mean, how expensive these races, even at a local level, have become?
Well, I remember, and you do as well, a few years ago when Big John and Joey Alexander were running in the county council race, county council.
Right.
And it was $250,000, $300,000 a piece raised. That was the maximum, and it's become the minimum now.
Absolutely. You know, the ads for Charlie Crist and Governor Scott, I mean, no matter who you're for or against, I mean, the ads themselves, I guess to call them attack ads would be an understatement in some cases. The dialogue seems to have gone, you know, to the negative or to the jugular vein, so to speak.
And when that negative advertising occurs, people stay home. They don't vote.
Yeah, I was going to say.
They get disgusted with it.
Yeah, I was going to say that, you know, I've heard an awful lot of people that just say that they just get turned off by the whole, you know, the whole advertising blitz, which in the state of Florida for governor started, gosh, I don't know, months ago.
Right.
Really, I mean. Hey, going back to Volusia County, I guess the polls, the rolls have closed at this point?
Yes.
So you cannot register to vote for the November election. How many voters do we have registered now, Ann?
We're up to 330,000. I think last time I talked to you a few months ago, it was 325.
Wow.
What happens in Volusia County come September, the kids return back to the colleges. We have 5 colleges.
Right.
And they all change their address or register to vote, especially the freshman classes.
Right.
We've been attending a lot of those functions to do voter ed, so that's pretty much where the new registered voters are.
And, you know, when I first came to Volusia County in the mid to late 1970s, this was a very Democratic county.
Yes.
I mean, the registered Democrats is way outweighed the Republicans. That whole picture has changed.
Right. It's a dead heat, really. Out of the 330,000, 41% are Dems and 37% are Republicans, but the Republicans vote more often. So really, in the partisan elections on the I-4 corridor, the no-party affiliation makes those decisions.
What's so significant about the I-4 corridor?
Well, I don't think it's the people who's lived here since the 70s. It's the new transplants, if you will, that have retired to Florida. The I-4 corridor is pretty much like Volusia County is, with the exception of Seminole County. That's a pretty strong Republican holdout.
And of course, the corridor is basically, as I understand it, basically from Daytona Beach to the Tampa State.
To Tampa, exactly.
Yeah. And the big race for governor, as we said, 2 high-profile candidates shaping up really to be a very close race from what I hear.
The division is watching it on a daily basis. We've sent our recount procedures to them all of that, so we're ready.
I was going to say, let's not go back to 2000.
No, please.
I mean, that was like I don't think we'll ever see anything like that.
I don't think we will either. You know, in the primary, we had a countywide recount, and that was in the county council race.
Right.
It's the same thing for us, whether it's governor or county council. I'd rather have a countywide recount than a zone or a district recount. It's just you throw all the ballots back into the machine. That's basically what it is.
And you know, we have seen on these recounts, you know, the vote totals really change very little.
Change very little. They don't change at the machine level.
Right.
They change when we look at the overvotes and the undervotes. And it's in the county council race, out of 70 some odd thousand ballots cast, it's a difference of 10.
Right. So. Well, let's talk about that overvote and undervote, because you know, that was a big thing back in the 2000 recount, and you were on the canvassing board back then. And if I remember what you all said, it is when it gets down to a recount, you're trying to determine the intent of the voter.
That's all. That's what a recount is all about, and it's different than in 2000. Because in 2000, you ran every ballot through, and then you looked at every ballot. You remember there was a score designated, held everyone up. Yeah. You don't do that anymore. You program the unit, the voting unit, to kick out the overs and unders, and you just look at those for any more votes.
So an over and under, as I remember it, is when perhaps a voter didn't color in the circles properly or wrote something in or that sort of thing?
Right, right. Voter intent is very, very important.
So if you color in both circles, but then you write in the case of the 2000 Bush or Gore, then obviously that was what the voter intended.
Exactly. Or another thing, if both bubbles are colored in and you X one out, that one is not counted, the other one is.
Interesting.
By law.
Interesting. Wow. So. The medical marijuana question, a lot of debate about that issue. You know, people can argue it one way or the other. You called it, I guess, kind of a wild card question in terms of what the impact of that is going to be. Do you remember ballot questions as potentially as drawing as much interest as that?
Statewide, no.
I was going to say statewide.
Yeah, countywide, there's been some land use things over the years or charter questions, but no, never like this. And some high-powered people are involved in it.
Oh, no question. We won't name names, but some very, very high-powered people. Hey, let's talk about the voting process. When is early voting going to start?
Early voting begins on Saturday, October 25th. And extends for 8 full days until the following Saturday before Election Day. So it'll start on a Saturday at 7 a.m. and it'll end on the next Saturday before the election.
And even on Sunday?
Even on Sunday.
That's different, is it not?
It is. It's the most we've had early voting, and I'm second guessing myself making it that lengthy, because open 12 hours means it's a 15-hour day for my employees.
Right.
But that's okay if people come to vote early. But in August, early voting just went down the tubes. Absentee ballots is even more popular than going to the polls.
Interesting. And that certainly is a change in voter habits.
Right. Well, you know, when I make speeches to the Rotaries in Kiwanis, I said, absentee ballot is the way to go. You never have lines in your kitchen.
Right. Well, that's exactly right. And plus, you know, you don't have to stand there and make your choices with people in line waiting behind you. You get a little intimidated and can't think clearly and so forth. And the way the absentee ballot process works now, you don't need to have a handicap or, you know, any reason other than you just want to vote absentee ballot.
That's correct.
Used to be, I guess it used to be kind of a hardship thing.
Very, very hard. You had to be out of town or have a hardship.
That sort of makes it easier on your staff, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, we mailed out, historically, this is the most for a midterm.
Wow.
We've mailed out 73,000 absentees.
Wow.
And we'll probably get 70% of those back.
Wow.
And we do it all internally.
Do you have any idea what percentage you think the absentees will be of the total vote?
In August, it was probably 40%.
Wow.
But early voting just went down. But what's happening in Volusia County now is what's happening in the other 66 counties. less people, less than 50% show up to vote on election day than vote before election day.
Wow. Okay, so, you know, one of these days, I suppose, maybe after you and I are gone, we'll be talking about maybe a different way to vote altogether. I know you've talked about the fact in previous interviews we've had that I believe it's Washington State or Oregon or something like it's all electronic now.
Well, you know, there's that way. It's all absentee in Oregon, but then you can go to vote centers. You could, I envision, probably not during my term, but I envision vote centers at the malls, multiple days. It'll be early voting sites all over this place. At city halls, at county government buildings. You can vote anywhere you want, wherever in Volusia County. Why do you have to wait on a certain day and go to a certain building to vote in this technology age?
I don't know. Good question. So what do voters need to bring when they come to the polls?
You got to have a photo signature ID. 9 times out of 10, it's your driver's license. If not, it could be 2 different IDs. It's as simple as that. You don't have to bring your voter information card. That's just for your benefit to know what districts you're in. Okay.
What about if someone was sent an absentee ballot and they lost it, or they forgot the privacy sleeve to mail it back, or whatever? What happens in those cases?
Well, it's up to the voter to use the privacy sleeve. That isn't by law.
What about the envelope, I should have said?
The envelope has to be signed.
It has to be signed, right?
Has to be signed. If you lose your absentee ballot and you want to vote absentee, come to my office here in DeLand at the Historic Courthouse, or call and we'll just replace it for you.
Okay. And if they were sent an absentee ballot but they didn't use it, and then they go to the polls on the day of the election, what happens then?
Well, we have what's called the EVID system, electronic voting ID. We can cancel their absentee there.
Okay.
We'd prefer to get the absentee handed in and we'll cancel it, but if we don't get it, that's okay too. The office will cancel it.
Anything else you can think of, Ann, to get people ready to vote that they should be thinking about?
One important piece of mail they need to be watching for in the next week or so is a sample ballot.
Yeah.
It's going to be a sample ballot exclusive to you.
To that voter.
To that voter,
Right.
and which means mark it ahead of time. You can bring it into the polls with you, and you can get out so fast if you do that.
And I know you have a terrific website
Yes.
for all kinds of information. So people that want to get information about how to vote, the rules, regulations, what's on the ballot, that whole thing is on your website.
Right, VolusiaElections.org.
Well, Ann, I know you and your staff are hard at work. You know, I'm sure that things will go real smoothly in the November. Well, I'm sure they will. They usually do. So thanks for sharing the information with us
Thanks
today.
for having me.
Our guest today, Supervisor of Elections, Ann McFall. And with that, we'll go back to you, Amber.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you for watching Volusia Magazine. If you have any questions about the show, you can feel free to give us a call at any of the numbers you see listed here, or you can log on to volusia.org and click on the News tab at the top of the screen to find us. Incidentally, you can find the County Council meeting calendar there too. In fact, you can use volusia.org to find out about meeting dates, workshops, topics of interest, activities, and how you can become involved. And we hope you won't forget to listen to Volusia Today. That's Volusia County Government's weekly public radio broadcast. Volusia Today airs every Tuesday and Sunday mornings on the local radio stations you see on your screen. For Volusia Magazine, I'm Amber Patterson. Have a wonderful evening.